going on, everybody? Welcome back to the ILLMented Reviews. I am your host, Mood616, and thank you once again for stopping in, guys. Yes, episode 13 coming at you live and direct, and we are going to take it back to the good old 90s, specifically 1994, with the brand new release from Unearthed Films, number 10 on their Unearthed Classics line. I will say this is a very oddball release for them, considering they don't really dive into this type of genre and stuff like that, but nevertheless, and we got No Escape from 1994. Yes, No Escape from 1994. I had not seen this movie probably since the 90s. Completely had actually forgotten about this one, to be honest. But yeah, going back to it, like Unearthed Films, if you're familiar with Unearthed Films, they release a lot of kind of lower budget, extreme horror films and things like that. They do have a line called Unearthed Classics, which kind of dives around all over the place. They release some Asian extreme category 3 films, and kind of obscure titles. And then this one comes along, just out of left field, but I'm not mad. So No Escape is a film directed by Martin Campbell, who actually went on to direct GoldenEye in 1995, and he also directed Casino Royale. So he directed two of the biggest Bond films. Two of the biggest modern Bond films out there. He also directed a movie called Cast a Deadly Spell from 1991, which was a TV horror film, which we covered on the Top 10 of 1991 show, which is very, very cool, kind of magic-driven type film. Very cool. Also produced by Gail Ann Hurd. Now, I bring up her name because there's a special feature on here that actually dives into her production of sci-fi films and stuff like that. She did Aliens and The Terminator and so on, The Walking Dead, blah, blah, blah. And of course, music from Graham Revell. And I bring up him because this guy's done tons and tons of shit, man. He did The Crow. He did, it says From Dusk Till Dawn on here. I know he did Bride of Chucky. I think he did The Craft. And he's tons and tons of films out there. Now, getting into the cast of this one right here. This one's starring Ray Liotta. And it's got Lance Henriksen, Stuart Wilson, Kevin Dillon, Kevin J. O'Connor, Michael Lerner, who plays the Warden, the Wicked Warden in this film, and Ernie Hudson, of course, from Ghostbusters. It's got Ian McNeice in the film, Sam Shepard's also, that they're not mentioned on the back here. All-star studded character actor film, just full of great actors in this film. Like, you can't get any better than that type of cast. Like, this thing is just, crazy with the actors and stuff. So you pretty much kind of know what you're getting yourself into. It's going to be a very fun film. Get into the synopsis of this one. Basically, this one is set in the year 2022. I don't think it's coincidental that Unearthed Films decided to release this one in 2022. Yeah, of course, it's from 1994. So it's set in the future. It follows our main character, Ray Liotta, John Robbins. He is a man that's just been convicted of killing his superior officer in the military. So he's sent to this maximum 6 jail. It's very secluded, and it's basically a jail where nobody can escape from there. It's run by Michael Lerner, who plays the warden, and he's just a fucking total asshole, this guy. Anyways, it's like martial law in this jail. And, the thing is, like, you get out of line, you basically get killed. There's no fucking around. So what happens is Ray Liotta's character gets into kind of a squabble with Michael Lerner, and he sends him off to this isolated island. They drop him off on this isolated island where he sends all the criminals from his jail that have gotten out of line, and he sends them off to this secluded, isolated island that the world does not even know about. What happened? Michael Lerner's character, I guess, bought this island basically for a playground for himself. He monitors everything that's going on in there, and he just basically watches these criminals kill themselves, and it's like a video game to him. So basically, Ray Liotta's character, he's hell bent on getting off this island and surviving and getting off this island because he needs to tell the world something about, what happened with himself and stuff like that. So that is basically the premise of the film. Now, my thoughts on this one. Oh, man, dude, if you basically mashed up Lord of the Flies with Mad Max, you have No Escape. That's really what it is, man. If you're familiar with Lord of the Flies, it kind of separates two groups of people. In this one, it is called the Insiders and the Outsiders. The Outsiders are run by Stuart Wilson, who is fantastic in this film. He totally reminds me of Mel Gibson from Mad Max and like Braveheart and shit like that. He totally does, 100%. The Insiders, which is the good side of the island, the good people, is run by Lance Henriksen, of course, from Pumpkinhead, which this was actually not even planned. I just realized I'm wearing a Pumpkinhead shirt, and Lance Henriksen's in this film. That was completely coincidental. But yeah, so he runs his side of the island, which is the insiders, and they're like the good people and stuff like that. So what happens in the beginning of the film when Ray Liotta first gets dropped off into this island, he escapes Stuart Wilson. What's his character's name? He plays Merrick. He escapes Merrick's lair. He's like he's badass, man. He's super badass. Anyway, something goes down with him. He escapes and he ends up with the insiders. And the insiders are just amazed that he was the first person ever to escape Merrick's grip. And so they really want him to stay. But like I said, Ray Liotta's character Robbins, he's like, fuck this, man. I got to get off this island. He's hell-bent. He doesn't want to conform with the insiders and stuff. He's got something to prove. He's got something to tell the outside world and all this type of stuff. So he doesn't really want to do it, but then he sees the good in, what's going on between the outsiders and the insiders and stuff. And he kind of feels compelled. He feels like he needs to kind of help them out and stuff like that, but he still wants to get off the island. This movie's fantastic, man. It's a pretty big budget film for 1994. I mean, it was a $20 million budget. Unfortunately, this thing bombed at the box office, which is quite interesting that Martin Campbell ended up going on to direct these huge Bond films with, like, I can't remember what the budget of Goldeneye was, but it must have been like $100 and something million. It's crazy because the Bond films just kept getting bigger and bigger as they went along. But that's awesome that they took what he did here and basically gave him a job on that one, because I think he did a really good job directing this film. There's a lot of characters, there's a lot of people involved in this. It's all shot in Australia. Looks fantastic. The landscape is phenomenal. The sets that they built for this are phenomenal. The costumes are really, really cool. Like I said, it feels like futuristic Mad Max with Lord of the Flies, but it's like, I love it because it's primitive, but it's still futuristic at the same time, because they're forced to live primitive, where they have to basically build everything out of the supplies that they have and stuff like that, which is kind of an interesting storyline that they don't really go into too much in the film. But the outsiders, they basically get supplies from the warden, and it's basically, he fuels this whole situation because he wants these guys to fight over stuff and shit like that. So it's kind of got this real diabolical feel to the film and stuff like that. But I think the movie itself is really, really well done overall. It runs 2 minutes short of 2 hours long. It never feels long. Like I said, like the first hour of the film is a lot of character development within the insiders, and you get to know these characters like Lance Hendrickson and Ernie Hudson's character and all these type of characters and stuff like that. And it's very interesting. And then the fight scenes happen, and there's a couple of those and stuff which are really cool, very explosive and stuff like that. Not overly gory and bloody. There is some blood and gore here and there. There's a head. There's a pretty awesome death in the end of the film and stuff like that. But it's not really about that. It's very character driven because all these characters have a backstory. Kevin Dillon plays, he's one of those characters in the film that really shouldn't be on the island. He was kind of did wrong. He kind of got a hard deal and stuff like that. And, his character is very sympathetic. And that's the thing with this one. It does sympathize some of the characters. At the same time, it doesn't sympathize some of the characters, which I really enjoy that about the film a lot, actually. But all in all, man, this is a very entertaining film. I saw the runtime and I was like, shit, man, this shit was like 2 hours long. Again, I hadn't seen it since the 90s. I really felt like I was watching this movie the first time, but I did remember a couple scenes, actually. I gotta say, though, like, Stuart Wilson and Ray Liotta have some great one-liners in this film. It's not even it's not a comedy at all. It's like an action, drama, sci-fi, if you really had to classify it. But there's some really good kind of tension relievers and stuff like that with some of these one-liners. Some good stuff in this, man. Really good acting. Stuart Wilson, I've always liked him as an actor. He's fantastic. He really is. But everyone's great. Michael Lerner is the warder. He's just he's such a piece of shit. Ian McNeice is such a piece of shit. I'm surprised they didn't mention his name on here. Same as Sam Shepard, because they're great actors and they're not mentioned on the back here. But Ian McNeice's character turns out to be such a piece of shit in the film. But Ray Liotta, man, really steals the show. He's fantastic. He's a badass, and with a fucking cause, and I really like that about the film. Like, there's, it just doesn't go for gold on this. Like, there actually is motivations for the things that they're doing and things like that. So, very, very fun film. If I had to rate this movie, I'm going to come in at a solid 8 out of 10. I think it's a fantastic watch. I really do. I think it's a great action sci-fi film. Great sets, man. I love the pieces. Like, everyone looks awesome. And that's one thing about these movies that always makes me laugh about these island prison movies, is that they always have so much stuff on them. You're like, where the hell did they get all this shit? But they do they give you the idea that they are being sent some of these supplies, but they also have a scene where the insiders are getting stuff from the beach. Like, stuff is, floating up on the beach, washing up on the shores and stuff, and they're taking stuff from there and they're building things and stuff like that. But, you know, it comes down to, like, they have a big block, like, V8 engine, and they just need a distributor, and they got to go get the distributor. Like, there's things like that are just, you kind of got to separate your mind from, you know, reality a little bit. And you're like, where the fuck did they get that shit from? But it is what it is. One thing that actually kind of surprised me about this movie is that they don't really show them eating a lot, which is kind of interesting, because a lot of times in these films, they always show them eating. Like, they always have tons of scenes like that, but not in this one. But yeah, 8 out of 10 on this one. Really, really fantastic film. Special features on here. We've got Survival of the Fittest, it's directing No Escape with the director and stuff like that. New interview with Martin Campbell. Welcome to the Future, the sci-fi worlds of Gail Ann Hurd. That's why I brought that up. So there's a feature on her about her production endeavors and stuff like that. An interview with Gail Ann Hurd also. There's one with writing No Escape, an interview with the co-writer Joel Gross, making No Escape. There's a vintage featurette, alternate intro, and the intro to the film is really cool because it actually shows, like the actual one that they used in the theatrical, the scene where Ray Liotta actually does kill his commanding officer, and it's a crazy scene too. It's like, it's during this parade, he just like walks out of the parade and boom, blows this guy's fucking head off. It's pretty fucking gnarly, man. There's promotional gallery, original theatrical trailer, and TV spots in here. So there's lots of features. The transfer is really good. It sounds great. I didn't really expect anything less from Unearthed Films because they do such great work with their films. But again, an oddball in their whole discography of releases, because especially in the classics, like they've been releasing some obscure stuff, mostly dealing with like Asian films and like German gore, splatter films and shit like that, and then this one comes out. But like I said, I'm not mad. If you're into 90s action films and just action films in general, island prison films, like I love Terminal Island. That one's really cool. The first thing I remember, like when I'm watching this, was just thinking of Terminal Island, because that's a great fucking movie. Vinegar Syndrome actually released that one, and it's a fun one. It's got very, very similar premise. So but the whole idea of being trapped on an island, having to survive against the elements and the dangers of people, and you know, the hypocrisy of just societies, you know, in general. So, which has some social commentary in there about that shit too. So, but yeah, No Escape. Rest in peace to Ray Liotta. Unfortunately, he passed away recently, which is so unfortunate. The guy had the voice, man. I could listen to that guy's voice all day long. Just fantastic voice. So, but yeah, go run out there, grab a copy of No Escape. This one would have been out on the 25th, I believe, of this month. So check it out. And yeah, that's going to conclude this episode 13 of the ILLMented reviews. I'll be back with another one sooner than later. So I'll check you guys in. And as usual,